All right guys, we're going to look at the lat focused seated cable row. So I'll get Charlie just to set up now. As you can see, we've set the width of these handles on the prime short bar. Now bear in mind, you can use another bar. You can also use a kind of zigzag bar or another bar where these D handles essentially loop around the outside of it. So just bear in mind, you don't need to have this bar specifically. So assuming that you've set up with the handle, it allows you to get that width of your shoulders in the right alignment. Charlie's then going to think about driving the elbows down to the floor rather than thinking about the elbows going backwards. Now, if we're doing, say, like rear delts and mid-back, we want to think about abducting and thinking about pulling the elbows backwards. However, on the lat focused row, all we're really focused about is really taking that upper arm and driving it down to around about the hip crease here. Now, as far as actual seat position goes, which is quite important to cover, we could technically say if Charlie sits a bit more upright, this is going to cover, potentially bias these upper lats a little bit more, whereas if we get him to do that slight lean with the hip back and lean forward, we might start to bias a little bit lower down around that lumbar lat region area there. Other couple of things to think about is as you bring this down, you want to almost think about cueing the elbow in, but also into the base of the spine as well. So we're getting both that upper arm extension, but also adduction into the midline here as well. Now, a couple of things we want to avoid is, of course, swinging backwards and using too much momentum, so that like swinging back and really not controlling those endpoints, and also using far too much momentum to do the pull. There is a time and a place for momentum, but certainly not using too much of that, certainly working against us, creating as much tension as possible. Other thing that people often do as well is they'll try and drive the arms almost like too wide, and often people think that if the further they get their arms back, the more lats it is, but that's really not what we're after. That's actually going to start creeping into that rear delt territory there. So a couple of good ones again. So just to recap, elbows driving down to the floor, in towards the base of the spine, keeping those abs braced, locking in this rigid trunk position, and really just focusing on getting that upper arm down and in towards the base of the spine.